Should we wear this? Nah, looks a bit weird, can't lie. So, it's another storytime video, which means I gotta do it in scrubs. Otherwise, is it really a storytime video? So, come on, mate. Yes, guys, how are you all doing? It's Scrubs Junaid, and as my good friend said, I'm back for another storytime video. Feels like it's been a while since we've had this little one-to-one interaction, so let's get straight into it. So the day starts off in the hospital, and your boy's there looking absolutely slick, ready to hashtag save lives. I was on my paediatric placement and I spent the morning in the clinic doing a nice mix of phone consultations and in-person consultations. I got to see a wide range of patients, from kids with epilepsy to cerebral palsy to growth issues, and the list goes on. I got to take histories, do examinations, you know, your bread and butter stuff as a medical student. So the morning was pretty uneventful because most of the patients already had a very established relationship with the doctor, and they all had very detailed management plans in place. And so most of these appointments were simply routine follow-ups. Where was I? Oh yeah, in the afternoon. So that afternoon I was scheduled to go on A&E, and if you guys watched my previous storytime video, you'll know that A&E can get quite eventful. Yeah.
What the hell's up in here?
Recording, bro.
Oh. What the
Whoa, it's all falling to pieces. Bit like my relationship with medicine.
Are you recording?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Bit man.
I'm joking, it's not actually. Thank you. So as I entered the doors to the paediatric A&E, I saw a little 2 or 3 year old girl trying to run away from her mum, and that pretty much confirmed to me, okay, at least I'm in the right place. So that afternoon I tried to do as many jobs as possible and just sort of make myself useful on the ward. So I clerked patients. This is basically where I see patients before the doctor, gather as much information as possible, and then present that information in a nicely packaged manner to the doctor. I also did some observations on a 1-year-old baby, which was probably one of the cutest babies I've ever seen. I mean, I've seen a lot of cute babies, but yeah, she was really cute. She started grabbing my stethoscope and she wouldn't let go. I mean, I'd let her keep it, but sadly I can't really afford that right now. I also did an ear, nose and throat examination on a 3-year-old, and by the end of the 5 minutes, I pretty much became that kid's worst enemy, because kids absolutely hate it when you put stuff in their ears and check their throats. Best believe that kid was not my biggest fan, but she needed examining and I needed the practice, so tough luck, kid. Also, a quick little tip for my fellow healthcare students out there, especially for when you're on pediatrics, really try and be opportunistic, because a lot of the times kids absolutely hate you and they hate you touching them and examining them. And my general rule of thumb is just say yes to anything and everything. So if you get asked to take bloods, say yeah. If you get asked to do observations, say yeah. If you get asked to clean the vomit from the floor, probably best not to say yeah, but you know what I mean. Just try and be opportunistic and make the most out of your placement. Towards the late end of the afternoon, things sort of quietened down, and me and the staff just sat down, we had some coffee, we chatted, and you know, straight vibes. And then out of nowhere, a young boy got brought in by an ambulance with his dad, and he got sent straight to pediatric resus. Now resus is a reserved room in every A&D department, and is often reserved for the most seriously ill patients. It's basically the room where there's the drugs and the equipment needed to handle the majority of emergency situations. So me being the opportunistic student that I am, I asked one of the doctors if I could go down to resus and see what was going on, and as I got there, the doctor absolutely blessed it. He got the consents from the parent and the child. Very important step. And this meant that I could actually go in and observe what was going on. I remember seeing this kid for the first time. My first thought was, he looks just like my little brother. So the kid presented with a really fast heart rate, and he looked really uncomfortable and anxious. After getting a collateral history from the dad, it turns out that this wasn't the first time that this child presented like this, and that he actually had a history of heart issues in the past. Now, when someone comes in with a fast heart rate, often that's not, usually a huge concern to doctors, unless obviously there's an underlying heart condition, because the body has a physiological adaptation to stress where it just causes the heart rate to increase. So I'm sure you guys have experienced that. Anytime you're stressed, anytime you're quite ill, your heart rate might be going a bit faster than usual. The primary concern is finding out what caused that initial stress or insult to the body that led to that heart rate increasing. So after doing an ECG, it turns out that the young boy had something called a supraventricular tachycardia, or an SVT for short. Now, the heart can be split into two sides. There's the left and the right, and then that can be further split into the top and the bottom, or as we call it, the atria and the ventricles. Tachy in medical terms just means fast. Don't know why they complicate it. Supra means above in Latin. So when we combine those things together, a supraventricular tachycardia is a fast heart rhythm above the ventricles. Now, this young boy had a heart rate of 230 beats per minute. So let me put that into perspective for you guys. Most of you sat down watching this video right now will have a heart rate somewhere between 60 and 100 beats per minute. This young boy had a heart rate 3, maybe 4 times faster than what your heart is beating at right now. To put it simply, it was very, very quick. So the doctors needed to bring this really fast heart rate down. And you may be wondering, why is that? A fast heart rate for a long period of time can be really dangerous, and it can increase your chances of losing consciousness, having a stroke, or possibly even having a cardiac arrest. And so because of that, this was being treated as an emergency situation. So when it comes to treating any sort of condition or managing any acute case, doctors will always try to use non-pharmacological approaches first, because you really want to avoid giving a patient drugs, especially when they don't need them. So it was finally my time to actually do something and not just feel sorry for this boy. I was to help the doctor do something called a modified Valsalva maneuver. This is basically a bunch of instructions that, when done properly, can cause a fast heart rate to slow down by itself. So the way we were to do it was to give the patient a syringe, and he was to blow as fast and as hard as he could into the syringe, and at the same time the doctor was going to lift his legs into the ceiling, and I was to put the bed down and lie him flat. And all this had to be done simultaneously at the same time. Somehow, that would cause a decrease in his heart rate. So we tried it and it didn't work. So we tried it again and it still didn't work. So at this point, this kid was getting quite agitated. I could tell he was getting quite upset as well. His heart rate was through the roof. There's this heart rate monitor that's beeping super loudly. There's strangers surrounding him. So it must have been quite a tense and anxiety-provoking situation for him. So as soon as I caught onto this, I almost got this sort of brotherly instinct. And again, this is because he really reminded me of my little brother. I just sort of sat down with him and started talking to him. And I noticed that he had a Minecraft t-shirt on. And because I'm an OG Minecraft player from back in the good old days, I started to build a bit of a rapport with him, and we started discussing Minecraft, which was quite wholesome in the middle of this medical emergency. And the more I spoke to him, the more I could sense that he was getting a bit more comfortable, and he was sort of getting less anxious about everything that was going on. And then I did the thing that I'm most proud of in my 3 years at medical school. I channeled my inner Elizabeth Phillips and I drew an absolute artistic masterpiece all within 2 minutes. And boy, when I tell you, this drawing is incredible, better than Picasso. Behold my masterpiece. It's a Minecraft creeper drawn to perfection. And I also let the kid draw one. Think his is maybe a little bit better than mine, but I could tell that just letting him draw my iPad had such a huge impact on his mood and just how he felt in that situation. So whilst I was keeping this kid busy, the nurses were drawing up a drug called adenosine. Now, adenosine is a drug that causes the heart rate to decrease. For all my pharmacologists out there, its half-life is 10 seconds, meaning by the time it enters your bloodstream, it has 10 seconds until the body metabolizes it and basically renders it useless. So within 10 seconds, it has to travel into the blood through a vein in the arm, travel up the arm, through the shoulder, into the superior vena cava, which is just a massive vein that drains into the heart, and then in the heart it has to bind to specific receptors on the cells of the heart, And all of this has to be done within 10 seconds. So as you can imagine, it works very, very fast. So the doctors administered the adenosine into the boy's arm, and we watched and we waited, and then we had the beeping of the heart rate monitor slowing down to 160 beats per minute, and then all of a sudden it shot right back up. So then the doctors tried it again with an increased dose, and again they injected the adenosine into the boy's arm. We watched and we waited, and the beeping of the heart rate monitor slowed down, and then it shot right back up again. And then it was the third time round, and this time the doctors used the maximum dose of adenosine. And if it didn't work this time, the doctors would have to call the paediatric cardiologist, which is basically the children's heart specialist. So we all sat there, fingers crossed, hoping that this drug would work third time round. So the drug got injected, and the beeping of the heart rate monitor started slowing down, and it stayed there. And that basically meant that it worked. The heart rate stabilized around 140 beats per minute, and you could just sort of feel the tension just leaving the room at that moment. All I gotta say is that kid is an absolute warrior, because just to put it into perspective, when adults have adenosine, they describe having a sort of impending sense of doom and the feeling that they're gonna die. And this kid, the absolute legend, had 3 rounds of adenosine. So what did I learn from this experience? I learned that as medical students, as much as we want to see all the cool stuff and get involved and do as many procedures as possible, sometimes it's best to just sit with the patient as a friend almost and keep them calm and cooperative. And that way you'll have a happy doctor, a happy patient, and you'll have an absolute masterpiece to show for yourself. So if you guys enjoyed this storytime video, you should check out this video up here. It's a story of my first ever cardiac arrest crash call, and yeah, it's currently 3 a.m. I don't know if you guys can tell how tired I am, but I think I'm gonna wrap it up there, guys. If you made it this far, please consider dropping a cheeky like and subscribing, because it really does help the channel to grow. And yeah, I think I'm waffling at this point. I'm just gonna go to sleep. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace. It's 2:21 a.m. and I'm still filming. Oh wait, can you close it up, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. It's Ramadan. Alhamdulillah, it's first day of Ramadan, so it's really nice. And I think I'm gonna stay up for Sahari, so yeah, or Sahur for you Arabs out there. So yeah. So we all sat there, fingers crossed, hoping that this drug would work first. So we all sat there,